welcome to another episode of the Cinema Scoop with Sam and Jordan. Today we will be talking about our top cold movies because it's very cold outside in America right now.
In Texas.
And Texas, where we are. And yeah, it got to below zero in a lot of places recently, and we had a little bit of ice. So we thought we could go through some fun choices of movies that are primarily cold.
Yeah, just mostly, I think the criteria was just movies that either are in the cold, in the snow, feel cold, any of that. So, let's go.
All right, so we each picked 5 movies that we're going to go back and forth on. These aren't necessarily ranked.
No.
And I approached this as not necessarily the best movies of all time that are somewhat cold. Because there's a lot of good movies where there's like one scene in the snow or one act is cold, but the whole entire movie isn't necessarily dependent on if you're cold or warm. So I kind of went more towards movies that...
They're just your personal
Yeah,
favorites,
and that cold was more of like a antagonist or a problem, not just
okay.
part of the movie.
I don't know if I took that angle. I think I just took it as like cold as a theme.
Yeah, and I did it so that I could have more unique choices, but...
Well, we should have a good solid set of 10 movies then.
Yeah, my first one is Frozen.
Oh.
But we're not talking CGI Disney Princess Frozen. We're talking the OG Frozen from 2010, where 3 skiers are stuck on a ski lift chair.
I remember you telling me
and
about
the
this.
ski resort closes and they don't come back open for a week. So these 3 people are on this big chair, like 30, 40 feet in the air, and the machine stops, so they're not moving. And I think they were like the last ones to get on, and the guy at who was operating it forgot about them or whatever. But I swear I saw this on the Sci-Fi Channel between 2010 and 2013 before the animated movie came out. Because when that was announced, my immediate thought was this movie. And now no one knows what this movie is.
Yeah. I remember you telling me about this movie like before Frozen came out. Like the titular Frozen.
Yeah, it's on Tubi right now. It's only got a 2.7 on Letterboxd. Only 76,000 people have watched. I just think the concept is pretty interesting, and like the idea is they're stuck up there, so they either A, have to just sit there and freeze to death, B, they have to jump 40 feet and break their legs, which one of them, spoiler alert, does. And then there's like another element where there's like these wolves just like on the ground. And so, yeah, I don't remember exactly how it all ends, but I just remember watching and like this was like one of the first like, okay, these people are definitely cold, and this is the whole movie because they're gonna get frozen.
Oh boy!
And I think it's worth a mention.
I love that.
One of my 5.
This has to get mentioned at some point because if I had to make you guess what this movie is, I would say it's a holiday movie, but it's not based on any popular holiday. And I feel like it needs like a space in like the holiday movie, winter movie time genre, but like it's pretty distinctly not a Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa movie. But anyway, it's Groundhog Day. And it's funny because I'm pretty sure Groundhog Day takes place like in February.
Yeah, Groundhog Day.
And so the idea is that it's like you're waiting on, the groundhog to either see a shadow or not see a shadow to tell you when spring's going to come. But like the interesting thing about this movie is that like I mean, there's no spoilers in this, but it happens and it's the same day over and over again. And every day it's cold. And like, I just distinctly feel like this movie gets overlooked as like I would say Christmas time movie, but like a holiday movie, because it's not Valentine's, it's not New Year's, it's not Christmas, it's not Thanksgiving where you're like with your family, but it's definitely still like a holiday in the cold. And I also think it gets like kind of maligned as like a like easy to write off Bill Murray movie, but like it's actually a really good movie. And it's like really funny, but yeah, there's like a lot of cold stuff in this movie just because of the time of year that it is. I think there's a couple of lines about cold weather and stuff, and I recently showed this to you and was like, I forgot how good this was. So yeah, that's one of mine.
Okay, another one for me. I chose Snowpiercer, which is the 2013 Bong Joon-ho movie, one of the ones he did before Parasite, starring Chris Evans and Song Kang-ho, who's in Parasite, as well as Tilda Swinton. And this is about, in the future, there's a global warming issue, and the entire planet is basically snowing and cold. It's like another ice age. And the only humans who have survived are on this train called the Snowpiercer, and they just ride in a train for infinity 24/7, because if they step outside, they freeze to death immediately. And there's a scene early on where someone either steals food or does something, and their punishment is to stick their hand out the train, and it immediately freezes and comes off. So, like, the whole idea of the movie is they have to be in this warm train or they die. And because it's all of humanity, it's, you know, silent or siloed off into class sections. So the poor disabled people are in the very back, and they're eating like bugs, and they're not doing good. And then the rich people are in the very front of the train, and Chris Evans is basically trying to start a revolution to save the poor people who are dying. And yeah, when I was thinking of cold movies, I thought of this one, because even though most of the movie is technically inside and semi-warm, the outer limits of where they're at is death. So that's what I thought about when thinking of cold.
It sounds like cold is like the antagonist in a way, kind of like what you said.
Yeah, so like that's kind of our, I don't know if that's all of these movies, but like that's definitely an interesting element for a story, is because it's one thing to just be like, oh, it's set in the cold, which I think there's a lot of movies like that, but I think this one's worthy of discussion.
Well, I don't think I thought that deep about mine, so sorry if mine aren't as well thought out as that. I actually think my next one is pretty well thought out, though, in terms of why I would pick this as a cold movie, because there's a couple of things about this movie that are cold. It's set in a cold environment the entire time, basically. There's also the way that the film is like filmed is with like a lens that makes everything look cold. And there's characters in this movie that are persistently cold, and it's Twilight. And so this is the epitome of cold. There's literally lines where they're like, oh, the cold ones. And like, I'm sure it's easy to make jokes that like a cold one is like a beer, like, you know, but there's also like a really terrible line.
The vampire's cold, isn't that?
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
The characters are cold. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, and the way that it's filmed is like all blue. It's like all cold. Yeah. And then, you know, it's Washington, so it's like they're cold all the time. And so, I mean, that's like the whole point of like why the Cullens live there, is because it's cold and like it's rainy and they don't have to show their sparkly selves in the sun. And so, yeah, I think I could have easily picked Eclipse, just because there's that part where they have to be in a tent, and
oh yeah,
you know, the argument between Jacob and Edward where he's like, I am hotter than you, because they're trying to keep Bella warm. But I will be so honest, I'm such a Twilight fan and I cannot stand that movie. I watched it 2 times in the last year, and both times were not enjoyable experiences because I was like, this is hard to bear through. Like Twilight and New Moon, I like enjoy watching them because they're bad, but like Eclipse is just like bad. Like her wig is just really, Kristen Stewart's wig is just like
Eclipse is the second one.
Third one.
New Moon is the second one.
Yes.
Okay.
So, but yeah, anyway, I picked the first one because it's the first introduction to like the way that they shoot things, being, you know, super cold looking the whole time. And anyway, there's this one line that's really, really cringy that I always think of when I think of the word cold. The part where she's like talking to Edward at like the biology table, and he's like asking her if she likes the weather, and she's like, any cold wet thing I don't like, or whatever. And like it's just stupid. Like it's so dumb, because then he's like chuckling like, haha, she doesn't know that I'm cold. Like what the, like it's so stupid. But anyway, lots of cold in this movie if you need something cold to watch.
Yeah, when I think Twilight, my first thought isn't cold, but I understand what you're getting at.
I'm here to add a female perspective.
Okay, my next one is The Northman from 2022. I just wanted to talk about this one for a minute because it was one of my favorite movies of 2 years ago, and it's set in Scandinavia, where it's like the Norway, Iceland type area, and there's a lot of scenes where it's snowing and cold, but funny enough, the movie ends in a volcano, which is like the opposite of cold. But great performances, so many good actors: Nicole Kidman, Alexander Skarsgård, Ethan Hawke, Anya Taylor-Joy, Willem Dafoe. It's by Robert Eggers, who did The Witch and The Lighthouse. Yeah, good story about revenge and very good action sequences in the cold. And it's one of those movies where it's like an epic journey type main character seeking revenge, but also like going through different areas of the ice, like the Iceland landscape or whatever. So I would definitely recommend that one.
Great choice. I haven't seen all of it, but from what I saw, I was definitely cold. So this next one, if I had to pick what my favorite cold movie is, I think it would be this one, because this is probably highest ranked on my personal favorite list. It's Edward Scissorhands. Obviously, there's like a very specific scene in this movie. This also can be like easily regarded as like a non-Christmas movie, because there's like a good part of this, like a good chunk of the movie is set around Christmas time. But I think the main thing that I really like about this movie is the snow scene, which if you know anything, the snow isn't like snow. It's from when he's like trimming the ice sculpture, and like Winona Ryder's dancing in the snow.
That's
and like
right.
There's that line that she says when she's an old lady where she's like, I forget what she says. Sometimes when I dance in the snow, I still think of him, or something like that. I don't remember the exact line, but like, it's pretty, like snow is a pretty important thing for the movie. And I like that movie a lot, but, yeah, I really like that specific scene is like cute, that part. And they play like the, that specific score that they have that, it's just, I don't want to sing it right now. I want to do it, but it's like the little like singers that are like, ooh, you know, the music is playing while she's like dancing. But yeah, I don't really have much else to say, because I mean, it's just a great movie, but definitely cold worthy and definitely snowy. So.
Okay, my next choice is Dead Snow.
I think I know this one too, but I haven't seen it.
This is a group of people go on a ski trip to Norway, only to discover that there are zombie Nazis in the snow, because apparently after World War II, all the Nazis went to Norway in the snow and became zombies. It doesn't make sense, but it's super gory, like definitely rated R for blood, and the kills in this movie are insane. but the ending is very good because there's like a few characters left, and one of them has a chainsaw, and they start to become like really good because there's like so many zombie Nazis in the snow, like tons. And this is a franchise. They made another one, Dead Snow 2: Red versus Dead. But I'm talking about the 2009 original one. Yeah, if you're into bloody gore zombie stuff, this is like top tier. And it's also super cold. So there you go.
Love it. So my next pick, I think, is probably a one that I was worried you might pick. I guess technically you still could have picked it, but this one is The Shining. I mean, the whole concept is that he's having to look over the hotel while it's the off season and they're snowed in, basically. There's like a lot of scenes of just like general like anxiety of like, you know, she can't call out because of the snow and she can't get through on the radio because of the snow, and like just that feeling of like isolation and stuff. And if you haven't seen the end of the movie, obviously snow and the cold plays a very important role, but you know, there's a lot of like just like wintertime imagery because of it being in Colorado, it being in the middle of the winter, and it's like gives a feeling of like cozy spooky winter. I just love it. Like,
yeah, I almost picked this one. It was on my extended list, but I thought you might pick it, so I thought I'll just not do that one. But yeah, that one, The Shining's one of my favorite movies ever. So yeah, great. Like the entire I mean, the whole concept is they have to be in the hotel because it's too cold for everyone to go. But yeah, the whole like second part of the movie is like the whole point is it's snowing and freezing.
they're trapped. Yeah. What's your last one?
Okay, my last one, and we could probably run down a few honorable mentions after, but this one stuck with me when I was like a preteen, much younger, and I just rewatched it a lot. And it's The Day After Tomorrow. Roland Emmerich directed. Most people would say it's generic or like boring or not that great, but like I don't know, when I was younger, it just like hit for me how cold it got and how like they shot how it was getting cold, because it's like another global warming thing where like the entire north, basically New York, it gets a big tsunami of water and then the temperature drops. And, like, you can see, like, from far away, things freezing and, like, characters, like, understanding that I'm going to be frozen in seconds if I don't move.
Whoa.
Because the temperature's dropping so fast. And, like, the Statue of Liberty freezes. Like, there's a lot of New York imagery about things getting frozen. Characters have to stay in the giant New York library for a while and, like, burn books to, like, get heat because it's too cold and they're stranded. And I think there's even a part in Antarctica at the beginning where they like kind of describe why this stuff is happening within the movie. But I haven't seen it in a few years, but I just remember thinking it's one of the better visuals of how cold can get, and like the immediate negative effects of if you're close to like if you're on the edge of being too cold, because obviously like you can like go to Antarctica and like be in negative 20 degrees if you have lots of jackets on and whatever, but like this was showing like, hey, what if it goes like negative 100 or whatever, and like, well, then you're just done. Like, there's nothing you can do, and like people would just like talk or like be their normal selves, and all of a sudden they'll just be frozen and they're dead, and like it happens really quick.
Oh boy.
So that's just another element of this movie that I think is very visually like interesting as far as cold is concerned.
Nice. Well, my last one, critically acclaimed right here. No, it's not at all. It's like, I think most people don't really like this movie, but it's one of my personal favorites. And it's the Adam Sandler Mr. Deeds movie. Not the old school Mr. Deeds Goes to Town that's in black and white that is well regarded. I'm talking about the really bad one from 2002 that's got Steve Buscemi, Winona Ryder, John Turturro. Like, it's so bad. It's a 2.7 on Letterboxd. And, like, it's so stupid. And I think I saw this in, like, just, like, my formative years of becoming a person. Like, I was 9 at the time this movie came out. And I just, like, latched on to the entire script of this movie with, like, my dad and my family. And for some reason, it's actually, like, one of the cleanest Adam Sandler movies that's out there. Like, it's actually, like, relatively wholesome. Like, if you know anything about the source material of, like, Mr. Deeds Goes to Town, it's supposed to be just, like, a really good do-gooder man. And that's kind of what they're trying to make Adam Sandler be, is just, like, the really good do-gooder guy. But he's Adam Sandler, so, of course, there's, like, you know, terrible humor and stuff like that, like, thrown in. But this is, like, squarely a PG-13, like, comedy that's just, I don't know why, but in my opinion, it's the best of, like, dumb comedy. And the reason I say that I like it for the cold is because, number one, the whole premise of the movie is that, you know, Adam Sandler's character, Longfellow Deeds, has inherited his, like, great uncle's $40 billion estate, basically. And the reason why is because his uncle tries to climb Mount Everest and freezes. But they, like, show this in the most hilarious scene. And, like, there's that line that I just love where there's a man who's like, we should turn back. And he's like, but we're so very close to the top, Mr. Puffy Jacket Man. And, like, then he just freezes and dies. And then that's how Adam Sandler gets all this money. And then the other reason that I think of the cold, well, there's a lot of scenes in the cold in this movie, but at the very end, there's a specific part where I think it's Winona Ryder that, like, falls through the ice at one point on, like, a frozen lake, and he has to save her. And, like, there's a part where she's, like, trying to confess her love for him, but she's, like, cold and she's, like, shivering and can't get the line out. And, like, I don't know why, but when I thought of cold movies, that was the very first thing I thought of. And then I remembered about his uncle climbing Mount Everest and freezing. And I was like, well, that's a really good cold movie. So, yeah, that's my favorite cold movie.
I would not have thought of Mr. Deeds, but
it's quintessential cold cinema right there. I mean, for the fact alone that the opening shot of the film is on Mount Everest.
Yeah, I had a long list of honorable mentions that we can just run through. We kind of talked about the holdovers on our top 2023 movies. It's set in the cold. Empire Strikes Back on Hoth is obviously cold. I could have easily done that one. The Thing with Kurt Russell, really Fargo, The Hateful Eight. You mentioned The Shining. I almost picked Batman and Robin for
Mr. Freeze.
Mr. Freeze.
I can't believe I didn't think of that. What a shame. I mean, that one's...
You like that one.
I love that one. All of Arnold's puns with his gun, he'd be like, freeze. And it's like, Oh, that one's so bad, it's good. I love that one. Yeah, I think the only other one that I thought of that I didn't say, you said one of the earlier Star Wars. I was thinking of, I think it's The Force Awakens, where she's on the ice. In the snow.
Starkiller Base.
Yes. Yeah. I really like that fight. But again, it's one fight in one Star Wars movie, and it's not the entire movie. So
I was also thinking just now about Harry Potter Deathly Hallows Part 1, where he has to go down the frozen lake and Ron has to save him.
But again, it's one scene.
Yeah.
But they are, like, sort of hiding in the woods for, like, half of the movie, and it's very cold. It's actually more of the book than it is of the movie. But, like, That's a great cold scene.
Yeah, there's tons of movies that have good cold scenes. Like even
Bambi.
yeah, Long Kiss Goodnight we just watched.
I was about to say that one too.
I did stay away from Christmas movies just because that's another topic.
Yeah.
But
These are like cold, non-Christmas necessarily movies. But yeah, there was a ton that I didn't write any honorable mentions down, but there's a ton of like good movies that have great cold scenes, but I was really trying to capture like movies that either had a persistent cold element or were cold the entire time. Yeah, that's kind of all I have for
yeah,
now.
now we have to do our top favorite warm or hot movie.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
we'll save that for the summer, but
Stay tuned till
that'd be funny.
August when it's the hottest here. We'll have to do that one. Thanks for listening. Stay warm.